Snow drifts against a city skyline. The glow of a grand ballroom window flickers. Some stories don't end when they're supposed to. Some hearts never really move on, no matter how hard we try. It had been 7 years since Evelyn Hart last saw Noah Hayes. 7 years since the man who promised her forever left without warning, chasing a dream she never asked him to abandon her for. In those years, Evelyn built a life most would envy. Acclaimed event planner, luxury galas, celebrity weddings, high society at her fingertips. She was flawless, untouchable, and behind all that polish, completely alone. Because there's one thing success can't bury: a heart that remembers. Tonight, the city glittered beneath a velvet sky. Snow fell softly, blanketing old memories Evelyn fought to forget. Inside the grand ballroom of the Astoria Royale, she prepared for the most important event of her career, a charity gala for the St. Jude's Foundation, with the entire city watching. But fate doesn't knock politely, barges in, and it was about to crash through her carefully curated world. A name appeared on the final vendor list. A name Evelyn hadn't spoken aloud in years. A name she swore she'd erased from her heart. Noah Hayes, renowned architect. The man whose hands once mapped out the future on her skin. The man who left for Italy, chasing a commission so prestigious it would make his career, and shatter hers. What was he doing here? After all this time, why now? She didn't have time for old ghosts. And yet, when she turned, when the ballroom doors opened, when he stepped into the room like he hadn't haunted her dreams for years, Evelyn felt the world tilt. His hair was a little darker, his eyes the same stormy gray. And in that moment, every wall she'd built cracked. He was here. Flesh, blood, and unfinished business. Some loves are reckless. Some are ruinous. And some refuse to die quietly. This wasn't a reunion. It was a reckoning. And it would end with a choice neither of them was ready to make. Have you ever loved someone so fiercely that even years later, the very thought of them leaves you breathless? I want to know. Tell me in the comments if you've ever felt a love that refused to let go. Stay with me, because what happens next will test the limits of pride, heartbreak, and the terrifying courage it takes to risk your heart one more time. Evelyn Hart was a woman of precision. Every candle, every floral arrangement, every reflection in every mirror was positioned to perfection. The Astoria Royale's grand ballroom gleamed like a dream, her masterpiece. She didn't have time for the past, until it walked through the door. "Miss Hart," her assistant Maddie whispered, eyes wide. "The architect's here." Evelyn's pen paused mid-signature. For a second, the hum of the room dulled, as if the air itself was bracing for what came next. She didn't ask for a name. Didn't have to. A part of her already knew. Slowly she looked up. And there he was. Noah Hayes. Older. Broader shoulders. Same storm-gray eyes. The color of winter storms rolling over a restless sea. His hair, once sun-kissed and careless, was now darker, swept back like the world had carved lines into him. Their eyes locked, and for a fraction of a second, neither of them moved. The room, the gala, the city beyond those frost-laced windows. All of it fell away. 1,000 unsaid words between them. 1,000 wounds. Evelyn's voice was steel when it came. "You're late." Noah's lips twitched into the faintest smile. Wouldn't be the first time. It was a jab. Or maybe a plea. She wouldn't give it air. "I don't care why you're here," she said tightly, gathering the last scraps of her composure. "Just stay out of my way." "Not possible, Evelyn. The rooftop renovations fall under my scope. And this?" He gestured to the ballroom ceiling, the intricate light installation she'd personally designed. "It overlaps." She hated that voice. Smooth, low, like old jazz and midnight promises. "I'll manage," she snapped, brushing past him. But she didn't miss the way his gaze followed her, heavy as thunder. Scene shifts to a dimly lit office, floor-to-ceiling city views beyond. The problem with unhealed wounds is they bleed into everything. Over the next week, Evelyn and Noah crossed paths again and again. Meetings, Material checks, venue inspections. Each interaction sharp, clipped, the air between them thick with what neither of them dared admit. The media, ever eager for scandal, had already caught wind of the reunion. Old flames rekindled at charity gala. The headline read. Evelyn tossed the tablet aside, disgust curling in her stomach. She wasn't here for drama. She was here to raise money for children's cancer research. To remind the city why she was the best at what she did. And Noah. He was nothing more than an inconvenient shadow from a past she'd buried. At least, that's what she told herself. Night falls. Ballroom empty. City lights glitter beyond the windows. Evelyn found herself alone, rehearsing table placements when the sound of footsteps broke the silence. A turn. Noah. Couldn't sleep, he murmured. Not my problem, she replied, though her voice lacked its usual bite. He approached not too close. A bottle of wine in one hand, 2 glasses in the other. Truce? He asked softly, holding them out. Evelyn hesitated. Pride warred with something quieter, something lonely. Without a word she took the glass. They drank in silence, leaning against opposite ends of a table. Outside, snow danced through the amber glow of street lamps. Noah's voice was quieter now. Honest. 7 years, Evelyn. And not a day I didn't think about you. She forced a bitter laugh. You could have written. I did. He met her gaze, something raw flickering there. You just never read them. She frowned. Don't lie. Noah reached into his coat, pulling out a weathered envelope. Her name in his handwriting. The edges frayed, as though handled too often. I kept them all, he said, voice rough. Letters I never sent. Because what was the point? Left. And I knew I'd broken the one thing I swore I never would. Silence thickened. Why now, Noah? She whispered. Why come back? I never left. Not really. And just like that, the years collapsed between them. Some wounds aren't meant to be ignored. Some ghosts don't rest until confronted. That night marked the first crack in Evelyn's carefully guarded world. The conversations that followed were accidental at first, lingering after meetings, arguing over floral colors, joking about terrible gala music. Late hours turned into late-night talks. They remembered old inside jokes. The terrible road trip to Vermont. How she hated his favorite sandwich. How he always drew tiny stars on napkins. It was dangerous ground. And Evelyn knew it. Because with every laugh, every accidental brush of hands, the ache in her chest deepened. Rooftop garden, partially under construction. Snow collecting on unfinished stone benches. Noah found her there one evening, lost in thought. I used to sketch places like this, he murmured. For us. Evelyn didn't turn. We don't get to have us anymore. I know. Beep. But if you had one night, just one, to remember what it was like before it all went wrong, would you take it? The words hung between them. Evelyn's heart twisted. She hated herself for wanting it. For remembering how it felt to be in his arms, to believe in forever. One night, she said, voice barely a breath. No promises. No tomorrow. Noah's throat worked as he swallowed. Anything you want. And so the bargain was struck. One final night. To heal. To hurt. To risk breaking what little they had left. If you were Evelyn, would you take that one last night? Or walk away before old wounds reopen? Drop your answer in the comments. I'm dying to know how you'd play it. Neither of them knew it yet, but that night wouldn't be an ending. It would be the beginning of everything they never stopped wanting. The weeks that followed were a careful dance of avoidance, stolen glances, and conversations spoken through clenched teeth and half-meant smiles. The grand charity gala, a night meant to dazzle the city's elite, was fast approaching, and neither Evelyn nor Noah could afford to jeopardize it. But it wasn't the pressure of deadlines or the threat of media scandal that made Evelyn's pulse race. It was him. The ghost of the boy she loved, now standing before her as a man who carried his regrets like a second skin. Late evenings turned into longer nights. The ballroom slowly transformed. golden chandeliers shimmering like stars, tables dressed in ivory linens, and a sweeping staircase lined with lilies, though Evelyn pretended not to notice. Their interactions remained professional, if not painfully stiff. But tension has a way of making itself known in the smallest of moments. A brush of fingertips while reaching for the same set of blueprints. A glance held a second too long when the room grew quiet. The crackle of old memories between them, thick as summer heat. It was during one such night, with the city humming quietly beyond the arched windows, that the walls began to fracture. "You missed a detail here," Evelyn murmured, pointing to the blueprint's corner. Noah leaned in, the faint scent of cedar and something familiar reaching her before his voice did. "I never miss details, Hart." "You missed me," she wanted to say. But the words sat heavy on her tongue, unspoken. Instead, she cleared her throat, eyes fixed on the drawing. "There's supposed to be a garden terrace for the private guests. You forgot it." Noah's lips curved into a smile, not smug but wistful. "I didn't forget." Evelyn looked up then, her gaze catching his. And in that charged silence, it was as if time folded in on itself. They weren't Evelyn the event planner and Noah the architect. They were two 20-somethings again, curled up in a candlelit apartment, tracing dreams on each other's skin. "I designed it last week," he said softly. "But I wasn't sure you'd want it." Evelyn swallowed, something fragile splintering inside her. "Why wouldn't I?" "Because it's yours." Noah straightened, hesitating before sliding a folder toward her. "Look at the name." Her fingers trembled as she opened it. Evelyn's Haven. A rooftop terrace, filled with lilies and a small fountain etched with the words, "For unfinished stories and second chances." For a moment, Evelyn forgot how to breathe. "You're unbelievable," she whispered, closing the folder. "Is that a good thing or a terrible thing?" "It's dangerous." She shoved the folder back toward him, rising to leave. "I can't do this, Noah. Not now." But before she reached the door, his voice, low and aching, stopped her. "I never stopped loving you, Ev. It wasn't grand. It wasn't planned. It was raw, broken, and exactly what she both longed for and feared." That night, Evelyn's carefully built walls cracked further. Back in her apartment, she opened the old wooden box beneath her bed, the one filled with love letters she'd collected over the years. Most were anonymous, relics of forgotten romances. But one was different. A faded envelope addressed to Evelyn Hart in Noah's handwriting. She hadn't opened it the night he left. Couldn't. Now, trembling, she tore it open. "I know you hate me for leaving. Hate me too. But you once told me love wasn't about promises made in easy times. It was about showing up when it hurt. Failed you. Failed us. I don't deserve forgiveness, but I hope one day you'll believe I never stopped carrying you in every heartbeat." Tears blurred the words. And for the first time in years, Evelyn let herself cry for what was lost. The next evening found them alone in the ballroom again. Neither of them spoke at first. The air between them hummed with too much unsaid. But sometimes silence is the loudest confession. Noah poured them each a glass of wine. "One last toast," he offered. "To what? Closure, or hope, or us, whatever you need it to be." Evelyn hesitated. She hated how her heart leapt at us. "You really think one night could fix 7 years?" "No," he said honestly. "But maybe it's enough to remember what we were, and what we could be." Against every instinct, Evelyn nodded. "One night. No promises. No regrets. Deal." And so it began. They walked the city's streets, slipping back into old rhythms. Noah teasing her about her irrational hatred of olives. Evelyn reminding him how he always overpronounced Italian words. They laughed like people who hadn't forgotten how. They lingered on park benches, recalling old plans. The trips they never took. The names they once picked for children they were too young to have. And when the night turned colder, they returned to the empty ballroom. Dancing, barefoot on the marble floor to a scratchy old jazz record Noah found in the venue's backroom. Their final dance. Or so she told herself. Somewhere between the second song and the third, Evelyn's defenses crumbled. She let her fingers rest against Noah's chest, feeling the steady beat beneath his skin. "I hated you," she admitted. "I know. I hated myself more." He caught her chin, tilting her face to his. "Why?" "Because even after everything, I still loved you." And then his lips were on hers. It wasn't a frantic, desperate kiss. It was years of ache and apology, of broken nights and lonely dawns, poured into something tender and infinite. The city lights outside blurred into gold and silver as the world narrowed to just them. Morning came too soon. Evelyn awoke in the quiet aftermath, Noah's arm draped across her waist. For a moment, she let herself imagine what forever could feel like. But forever terrified her. She slipped from the bed, gathering her things. Every instinct screamed at her to leave before it hurt more. Noah stirred. "Ev." He paused at the door. "Don't make this harder," she whispered. "It doesn't have to be goodbye." Her heart cracked. "It does. One night, remember." He sat up, desperation in his eyes. "I meant every word I said last night." Evelyn blinked back tears. "That's what makes it so dangerous." And then she was gone. The fallout was quiet. Neither spoke of it in the days that followed. The gala preparations consumed them both, though every glance felt heavier, every touch lingered longer. But Evelyn's heart warred with itself. Love was never her enemy. Fear was. And Noah. Noah wasn't the boy who left anymore. He was the man who stayed. What she didn't know was that Noah wasn't done fighting. He had one last card to play. A rooftop garden. A name carved in stone. And 7 years' worth of unsent letters. And on the night of the gala, he would gamble it all. Because love, real love, the kind worth breaking for, never lets you go. The gala evening had arrived, and the city skyline glittered against a dark velvet sky. The ballroom was a symphony of soft gold lighting, crystalline chandeliers, and cascading white lilies, Evelyn's personal touch on every table. Guests mingled in designer gowns and tailored suits, unaware of the storm raging beneath the flawless facade of their hostess. Evelyn stood near the grand entrance, clipboard in hand, giving last-minute directions to the staff. Her heartbeat was a drumline beneath her skin. This was it, the culmination of months of work, the pinnacle of her career, and the night she swore would be the end of whatever lingered between her and Noah Hayes. Across the room, Noah entered quietly, wearing a midnight blue suit that cut a sharp, devastating figure. His gaze searched for her the moment he arrived. Not for the guests, not for the donors, for her. He spotted Evelyn near the arch of lilies, her hair swept up, neck bare, the diamond drop earrings catching the light like tiny stars. She looked untouchable, flawless, every inch the woman he had both loved and lost. His chest tightened. It was now or never. The grand reveal. As the evening progressed, the air was thick with champagne bubbles and the hum of polite conversation. Evelyn floated from table to table, exchanging pleasantries, yet never truly present. She could feel Noah watching her. Every stolen glance. Every quiet moment when the crowd shifted, and their eyes met across the room. It was maddening. Then came the moment everyone had been waiting for. The unveiling of the newly designed rooftop garden, a space no guest had seen until now. It was to be Noah's crowning achievement for the venue. Evelyn had refused to preview it, partly out of stubbornness, partly out of fear. The announcement was made, and the crowd ascended to the rooftop terrace. Evelyn hesitated at the ballroom doors, her pulse a staccato beat. Something gnawed at her gut, an instinct that this wasn't just another reveal. When she stepped onto the rooftop, it stole her breath. A softly lit garden stretched before her, trellises heavy with lilies, strings of fairy lights woven through climbing ivy, the scent of night-blooming jasmine thick in the cool air. At the far end stood a marble bench beneath a wrought iron arch, and carved into the stone floor, a single inscription. "For the woman I never stopped loving. N." The crowd gasped softly. Camera flashes flickered. But Evelyn didn't hear any of it. Her gaze darted around until she found him, standing near the edge of the garden. His face laid bare in a way she'd never seen before. Noah walked toward her. Every step was a silent apology, every breath a confession. "Evelyn," he said, voice low, threading through the murmur of the crowd. "What is this?" she demanded, blinking back the sting in her eyes. "I thought about how you loved hidden places," Noah said, glancing around. "Corners of the world where two people could exist without anyone else. So I made you one. I made you this." He reached into his jacket and pulled out a small, time-worn envelope. Inside were letters, some yellowed with age, others fresh, ink still bold. "I wrote you these," he continued. "Every year. Every time I thought of you. I never sent them because I was a coward. But you deserve to know, Evelyn. Not a single day passed when I didn't wish I'd chosen you instead of chasing something I thought would make me whole." Her heart cracked wide open. The part of her that had built walls. That had buried the girl who once believed in forever. That had insisted love was a risk too dangerous to take. Noah opened the top letter and read aloud. His voice trembling. "You once told me lilies were your favorite because they only bloom at night, when no one's watching. I guess I understand them better now. Because that's how I've loved you. In the quiet, in the dark, when the world wasn't looking." A tear slipped down Evelyn's cheek. And another. The dam breaking. The crowd faded. The rooftop vanished. It was just them. "I can't lose you again," Noah whispered. "Even if it's just one more night. Even if you still walk away tomorrow. I needed you to know." The decision. Evelyn's mind raced. She could end it here. Take back control, walk away, seal her heart before it shattered again. She could cling to the life she built, safe, successful, and utterly alone. Or she could fall. She stepped closer. Her voice was a broken thing when she spoke. "I'm terrified, Noah. You ruined me once." "I know," he said quietly. "And I'll spend the rest of my life proving I'll never hurt you again." Evelyn hesitated, then looked around the garden. The lilies, the inscription, the love letter he dared to read in front of a room full of people. And for the first time in 7 years, she let herself hope. "Maybe forever was always ours," she murmured. Noah reached for her hand, pulling her into him. Their lips met in a kiss so tender, so devastatingly right, that applause rose around them, though neither noticed nor cared. Snow began to fall. Soft, unexpected flakes drifting from the night sky, dusting their hair, the flowers, the cityscape beyond. Fresh start. A new beginning. The epilogue. Later, long after the last guest had gone, they danced alone on the rooftop. No music. Just the hush of the city and the steady beat of two hearts finding their rhythm again. "I have one question," Evelyn said, her head against Noah's shoulder. "Anything. Will you still draw stars on napkins?" He laughed, pulling back to cup her face. "Always." And as snow blanketed the city, Evelyn finally understood. Love wasn't about certainty. It was about choosing someone again and again, even when it hurt. Even when you were scared. Because some people, some loves, were meant to come home. Forever. As snowflakes shimmered in the glow of rooftop lights, Evelyn and Noah stood beneath the arch of lilies. Two people who had been broken by the weight of the past, yet somehow found their way back through the storm. This wasn't the ending either of them had planned. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't neat. But it was real. And sometimes real was more than enough. The city stretched endlessly below them, a canvas of possibilities neither had dared imagine. Evelyn leaned into Noah, her pulse no longer racing with fear, but with something far riskier, hope. And maybe, just maybe, this wasn't the end of their story. It was the beginning of the one they were always meant to write together. And now I want to hear from you. Have you ever loved someone so deeply that, no matter how far you ran, their memory followed you like a shadow? Have you ever wished for one last night, not to say goodbye, but to see if the fire still burned? Broken heart fire. Tell me your thoughts in the comments below. What would you have done if you were Evelyn? Would you have risked your heart again or kept it locked away? I'm genuinely curious to hear your stories. Drop them in the comments. You might find you're not as alone as you think. Black Heart. And if this story stirred something inside you, if you felt every ache, every unspoken word, and every lingering touch, please take a second to like this video and subscribe to Made of Love for more emotional, unforgettable love stories that remind us how fiercely the heart can fight for what it wants. Don't forget to share this with someone who might need to believe in second chances tonight. Because love doesn't always listen to reason, but it always deserves a voice. Sometimes the greatest love stories aren't the ones that never broke, but the ones brave enough to rebuild.